Okay, today I'm sharing my spiritual resume, and we start with a song. Jesus edi amami kufo, amami kopio, amami kefa. Indeed, is in my mother tongue, and it talks about how the Lord has loved me. The Lord indeed has shown His steadfast love towards me. December 5, 1986, at the University of Calabar, I made a commitment to the Lord, and that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. I've been part of many ministries. I also attended Bible school in Nigeria because after a few years of being in the faith, I heard God make a specific call upon my life. And so I began to work in that particular area. But eventually, because of work, I moved from Nigeria to Botswana, and I attended Bible school again up to diploma level. This is the only certificate that I actually have. The ones in Nigeria, I didn't have any. I didn't actually uh, wait to get the certificate. I've served in spiritual leadership positions in various churches in Nigeria, in Botswana. I remember in one particular instance when I was given the position of deacon along with my wife. I don't know whether the head of the deacons saw that I was inclined to move into the ministry. And he gave a very peculiar interpretation of scripture. Stephen, that if Stephen had, stuck to his calling as a deacon, he would not have lost his life. And I was thinking, now what is that about now? But eventually I also moved to Tanzania, still occupied leadership position. I was a lay minister when the pastor was not available. I was part of those that, stood in when we had an issue of the pastor not being available. I was one of those ministering. In Namibia, I've also served in up to the position of something like a deacon. So this is part of my journey. It's been about 34 years of this journey. My grandfather was a full-time preacher. My mother is a full-time pastor, as it is. And I've always wondered to myself, this vision that God gave to me, when is it going to come to fruition? Because in most of the ministries I've been in, I've never actually been able to take up the position of a minister. So I just told myself, if eventually my mother would hand over the ministry to me, then COVID hit, and it then occurred to me, why don't I also begin to, all the things that God has deposited in me, why don't I record and begin to share? Particularly for those that might not be able to sit through a 45-minute sermon, those that might not be able to, attend church either because of one reason or the other. So I came to that realization, and it's also similar to what occurred to David. First Chronicles 14, verse 1. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent envoys to David, along with cedar logs, stone masons, and carpenters to build a palace for him. And David came to realization. That was also my eureka moment. I realized, wait a minute, I can actually fulfill my ministry. When God called me, he didn't tell me you need to be in a traditional church. He just called me to the ministry and he gave me specific instructions. And so my eureka moment has actually occurred, and I intend to make the most of the ministry.